Good evening and welcome to a new episode of WTFriday. We've talked a lot on this show and all the other weekly episodes that we do about missing person cases. Some of those have been solved, but most of those haven't, sadly. Lexi Ware from Anderson, South Carolina is still missing, and there's been no updates whatsoever on her case for nearly a month. Around the same time that I brought you that case, I also talked about the case of missing 15-year-old Cheyenne Boone. She's still missing, and just like with Lexi's case, there have been no updates on it either. It's almost like people just vanish into thin air, but we know that's not entirely possible. Now, Marvin Alvin Clark went missing on Halloween weekend of 1926 and was never heard or seen from again. And that's what we're talking about tonight on tonight's episode of WTFriday.
Welcome to WTFriday, an After Dark series presented by Mystery, Murder, and Magic. Listener discretion is advised.
On October 30th, 1926, Marvin Alvin Clark left his home in Tigard, Oregon, to meet up with his daughter in Portland. After that, no one knows what happened to him. Marvin was born in Iowa in 1852, so that made him around 74 years old at the time that he disappeared. He and his wife Mary moved to Oregon around 1910, and that's where they started their family. Some of the information that is on this disappearance is a little fuzzy, and there's like some conflicting information too, because like one source that I saw said that he had traveled by stagecoach from Tigard to Portland, but most of the others said that he had taken a bus. But I'm kind of going with that bus theory because people saw him in the bus station in Portland, and that and one other time or two other times is like the last time he was seen. Now, if he was spotted, he would be easily to pick out in a crowd because he walked with a limp and he had suffered some degree of paralysis, so he couldn't use his right arm properly. Now, you would think that someone would remember having seen him because of those that I mentioned, but hardly no one did. Now, he was first reported missing on November 6th of 1926, which was about 7 days after the last time anybody in his family had seen him. And the daughter didn't even know that her dad was coming to see her until a couple of days after he was supposed to have been there. The mom called and was just trying to find out when, Marvin was coming home. So the daughter knew nothing about him coming. But then on November the 9th, in a newspaper, it reported that Marvin's wife, Mary, she had received this odd postcard that just seemed like it had been supposedly written by Marvin, and it was postmarked in Bellingham, Washington. And the way the postcard was written, it wasn't like Marvin at all. The words were all jumbled, and it made people believe that maybe he had the early stages of Alzheimer's or dementia. But the people who knew him best didn't go with that theory, because they said that Marvin was still sharp as a tack. He was highly intelligent. I mean, he had even graduated from 2 universities. And that newspaper report also said that people had seen Marvin at 2 different hotels in Bellingham on November the 2nd and November the 3rd. Well, with no clues, no ideas, pretty much nothing to go on, the case stalled. But then fast forward to 1986. Loggers found the almost completely skeletonized body of an unknown man in the area of Highway 30 between Tigard and Portland. The area that the body was found in was very densely covered with vegetation, and it hadn't been logged since the 1940s. The body had no identification on it, but it did have a few items near it, which included an 1888 Liberty Head nickel. Gosh, I can't talk today. A 1919 penny, a pocket watch, leather shoes, a fraternal order of Eagle's pocket knife, 4 tokens that were inscribed with D and P, and a pair of wire-rimmed glasses. And also near the body, crime scene investigators found a rusty .38 revolver with a spent shell casing. An autopsy showed that the body belonged to a man that was between the ages of 35 and 55, and the death had been ruled a suicide. Several members of Marvin's family suspected that it might be him, but at that time, DNA testing wasn't as advanced as it is these days. So the case basically just stalled again until 2018. Marvin's great-granddaughter, Pam, and her son provided DNA samples for comparison with the body that was found in 1986. The results of that, though, it proved or caused more confusion because it wasn't a DNA match for Marvin, and they still didn't know who this John Doe was that had been found in the woods by the loggers. Now, even though Pam and her son's samples, they didn't match Marvin, their samples are still in storage for future testing, just in case, another body's found or whatnot. But here it is, 2022, 95 years after Marvin disappeared. We still don't know what happened to him. All of his immediate family, they've passed away also, so they went to their graves without knowing what happened to him. I mean, he was a husband and a father, and they had no idea. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on this case. You can send them to me. All my contact information, socials, everything are in the description for this episode. Now, I'm sorry that this is shorter than our usual Friday night episodes, but it's final exam time for this semester, and right now my brain's just kind of fried, and I've still got 2 finals to go for this semester, so I'm about to hit the books again. But y'all have a good evening. Don't forget to check out all the social media links in the podcast episode description. And hey, you know what? How about hit that subscribe button on YouTube? Y'all have a good night.